Welcome everybody to the Regional Hospital District meeting for March the 24th. I want to acknowledge that we're in a traditional territory of our friends and neighbors and Treaty 8 partners of Fort Nelson First Nation, as well as the Prophet River First Nation. We recognize the treaty and the rights within that treaty. We recognize the enduring presence of the Métis people and their contributions to our community. Please be advised that this afternoon's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Okay, are there any additions to the agenda, staff, council? Everything's good? Okay, is there any public who wish to make a comment on today's meeting? No? Okay, adoption of the agenda is in order, please. Moved by Councillor Andrews, second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Are there any opposed? That carries. Thank you. There's one set of minutes there, the Regional Hospital board meeting from December the 19th for approval. Moved by Councillor Enoch, second by Councillor Andrews. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Those are carried. Okay, that brings us to report 7.1, which is the 2025 annual budget adoption bylaw number 84 for the hospital district. So staff, I'll turn this over to you and you can let us know what you're looking for.
All right. So we have brought forward the bylaw for approval prior to the deadline of March 31st, 2025 for the Regional Hospital District. We have not, there've been no changes to it from the preliminary budget presented in December. And we have confirmed with Northern Health that they had no further changes to their requests at this point in time.
Okay, so essentially we were looking at that on page 10 of 20, the X-ray machine, the potential for the CT scanner, the phone system replacement, and the elevator upgrade. Some building integrity and some minor equipment. IT project. Those are seems to me, I remember that's what we were talking about in
That's correct.
yeah.
We've received an invoice in 2025 on the elevator upgrade. So that project is proceeding and the phone system replacement is proceeding as well.
Okay. So we have had a look at this. Are there any questions from council?
So if I may provide just a bit further comment on the CT scanner.
Please.
What we've got in here is we've got 50% of the 50% of the hospital district's 40% towards the proposed budget. Should the project go ahead, we would be utilizing short-term financing to a point where the project is complete, and then we would undertake a debenture to finance the 40% of the full project.
So did you want to say something? Oh, so I thought I heard you say something. So that right now is looking at an $8.8 million project, if I recall, of which we're responsible for 40% of it. There's some fundraising that may be required, and Northern Health has committed that if we move forward with this and are able to get the fundraising done, that they would put the rest of the money in. The 8.8 million is an extremely conservative, they've told us, based on the fact that we are in Fort Nelson, it's more costly to build here, and they've got a lot of contingencies built into that. So the number ultimately, I think, will be less, but they will not proceed, and this is where I'm looking to staff, they will not proceed moving forward with the CT scanner in any way, shape, or form until we've at least been prepared to commit our share of this money moving forward. And so staff have presented to us, we have some money in reserve. Our shares, remind me, 3.2,
Our share
Three-
is 3.28.
right? And we have some reserves already for that.
There are some dollars sitting in reserves that are going to be utilized for the X-ray machine
Right.
portion at this point. There had not been a plan at this point to utilize any of those further reserves towards the CT scanner in this iteration of the budget.
Right. So because the hospital district doesn't have any money of its own to speak of, and we're somewhat limited with respect to how much taxation we can use for the general capital, when it comes to big projects like this, the act allows us to borrow money, to which then over time you can apply tax revenues to it. Is that
Right.
correct?
Right, so there is a limit on the amount that can be levied for ongoing operational. And those large ticket items, if they go to a debenture in order to fund our share, we have the ability to raise taxes over and above that base. So
Right.
we're not restricted to the base.
Right.
So what you'll see on the attachment is that we've identified under the 2025 final budget column, 342,400 in property tax and an additional $82,000 that would be raised for capital purposes.
Right.
And so we have the ability to keep those two lines separate.
Thank you. And if I remember my tax notice, there's a separate line there so people know exactly what it's for. Hospital board.
We would have to
Yeah.
add a separate line for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that kind of covers the dollar amounts and the administrative process of how this goes through. Are there any other questions from council? Councilor Anders, go ahead.
I'm just having a hard time finding the difference in what we're gonna have to levy this year with this proposed budget over last year's.
Sure. On the, now I'm not sure what page it is, but it's the schedule attached to the bylaw. In 2024, we levied just under $200,000. Our property tax levy.
Okay, right, I
Yeah.
see the line here now,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the bylaw, we can, this bylaw, because the hospital district can actually be, we can go through 3 readings and adoption today. I think the 3 readings have to be done separate from the adoption, that's correct? So we're looking for the first 3 readings if council, somebody from council would like to make that recommendation. Everybody? So we're looking for the first 3 readings of adoption of the 2025 annual budget, bylaw number 84. Do we have a mover?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Andrews that the first 3 readings, that we have the first 3 readings of the 2025 annual budget adoption bylaw number 84, 2025. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Souls. Is there any further discussion? Councillor Souls?
Oh, yeah, I'm curious about no, I just know that the picture of adding a CT scan to our system at the same time as having recognized that we've got a lot of CT scanning going on elsewhere for our residents. Bring it home into our own hospital, and we know that we ballparked the CT scan process on an individual time at somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 or whatever. I don't know if that was the exact number, but you start bringing the CT scan into operation here, and it's actually generating the revenue here that otherwise would be, or currently is moving somewhere else. So in one way, I kind of hold my nose and say, yes, let's do this.
Yeah.
But in the long term, I don't think that this is an unsustained, this is a very sustainable and prudent decision to make sure we do what we can to get a CT scan working in our community, because it brings the value of it back to our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. In this day and age, it's basic diagnostics for a doctor. And if we're ever going to keep doctors, I mean, we're extremely fortunate with the doctors that we have here, that they're prepared to work without one. But I think even they probably have difficulties when it comes time to, for a diagnosis for somebody and a CT scan is expected. They realize that they're putting that person into into a financial bind, potentially, that they've got to go out of town to have it done. And, and so that money that they're spending on hotel rooms and gas and, is leaving the community. And I think that's your point. And potentially, because these CT scanners, potentially we see the reverse of that starting to happen. If people are looking for CT scanners and they're all blocked up someplace else, they just might come here to get it done. Right. And so I hope that would happen, and that Northern Health would allow that to happen, so that we got people coming this way. I mean, that highway runs both ways, right? It's got a north lane and a south lane. So I think it's worthwhile. It doesn't mean it's happening this year. It means we're authorizing ourselves to do it. It's providing the sun, the moon, and stars all line up, then we've authorized ourselves to go ahead and do the debenture, which has a process of its own, to move forward and get this done. Go ahead, Councilor Enax.
And not only the financial burden for the residents having to go south, I know the stress on the doctors when, if they had the CT scanner, something that's very, dangerous to a patient, they can assess it and know right away versus waiting 2-3 days for them or longer
Yeah.
to get it looked at.
Yeah, I think particularly with stroke patients, yeah. Okay, is there any further discussion? Please, Councilor Roper.
Maybe just one further comment that we should remain diligent that, once the equipment is in place, that Northern Health is going to commit to operate it. Because I don't think just anyone can operate the CT scanner, and it's going to do us no good if it's just sitting there and we have CT scans, every 2 weeks or once a month or something. So, the work won't be complete once the equipment is purchased. We'll have to continue working with Northern Health to make sure that that is operational all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. It was, I couldn't understand why they would commit, because they tell us it's $1 million a year to operate it. And they've told us that they'll commit that $1 million a year, but they wouldn't commit the capital to get it here in the first place. But yet they would commit to operating it once it's here. It just seemed counterintuitive to me. But your point is exactly right. Is we've got to be able to maintain it for the long, and operate it for the long term. So. Okay, if there's no further questions or comments, I will call a question on the first 3 readings. All in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. Adoption is in order. Yeah, we can do right through to adoption today, if you like.
I'd move for adoption.
Okay, so move is for the adoption of the 2025 annual budget, bylaw number 84, 2025, moved by Councilor Andrews. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Souls? Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adoption? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that passes. Thank you.
Chair Fraser.
Yes.
Can I ask that council may consider the first part of the resolution that was in the report around directing that admin expenses be provided for in the budget?
Why do we do that? And so you'll have to explain to me how that happens, because I thought is there a certain amount of administrative budget that we're allowed to put in this? Oh, okay, so that's what it is. Okay. And how much is that? Remind me, please. 35? Okay, good. Okay, well, so we can have another resolution then to cover that. So
I'll,
Counselor Andrews, please.
make the motion that the direct administrative expenses be provided for in the Northern Rockies Regional Hospital District 2025 annual budget.
Thank you. So moved. Counselor Enax is seconded. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor? That passes. Thank you. Okay, there is a letter there from Nick Krismanich, Capital Finance Coordinator in Northern Health, which is just basically an update report of the 2024-2025. Move to receive that for information. Moved by Counselor Andrews, second by Counselor Souls.
May I comment, please?
Okay.
I just want to draw everyone's attention to the fact that they itemize some of the smaller things that are being purchased with the $70,000 request.
Okay, thank you. All in favor to receive that? Opposed? That passes. Is there any new business? No. Is there any notice of motion for the hospital district? No. Is there any questions from the public online? No? Yeah, I think so. So there is a motion there to move in camera for section 91 I of the community charter. Need to have that motion moved by Counselor Andrews. Have a seconder. Counselor Roper, all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we'll move in camera. We'll have to clear the room for 5 minutes or so. And we can come back. So we have to clear the room for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll get you to come back in. Please. Thank you. We're back in the regular regional hospital district meeting. There is nothing to report or rise from the closed in-camera meeting. So the regular regional hospital district meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.